I'm really excited because we have two people from two different parts of the industry. Like Imran had said, that Mary comes from a business, a company that creates products or services for 5G. And William, right, you're an academic and an entrepreneur who wrote a book that debunks everything that people are saying about 5G. So let's start with Mary, since she is a marketer and she can clearly distill and explain what 5G is in the context of the thing that we use every day, every minute, and every moment. So break it down for us.
Break it down. Okay. So I like to, when I sit on stage, I like to use this as a prop because I continuously hold it up like I'm actually holding my phone. So I thought, well, hell with it, I'll just bring it up on stage. So the mobile device. So today, right now, how many of you are here with a mobile device that's roaming onto a UK network? Are a lot of you roaming onto it? Great. Look at your phone right now. What does it tell you? Are you on LTE? Are you on 3G? Mine currently says E, which stands for Edge, which is like barely 3G. Yeah, this is a nightmare for all of us, right? Because we should be going through life with LTE all the time. This is what we are accustomed to. My 17-year-old son.
What's LTE? We
yeah,
gotta
okay.
distill everything. Pretend we're like first graders.
So the way to think about this, right? Very basic. You still always have line of sight radio technology. I know it sounds really pathetic, but that's really what this is. This is connecting via a radio to a tower, probably 20 miles away. That tower is going down into the ground and is going through the wires underneath into the mobile operator's network. And it goes there, and ultimately it's sending me my data. It will send me the messages that I need to receive, but it goes through radio, down into the ground, into a network. That network and that radio, essentially, if we're in LTE or 4G, then that's what's essentially beaming it. But like right now, I'm on Edge, which, you know, I could barely like send a text message if I wanted to right now. And when you think about us as consumers, we've kind of left all this behind. We just assume this thing is going to work, right? This is not something, you know, I love Andrew's, you know, the future of mobility. I just want to make sure that my call doesn't drop while I'm talking to somebody on Edge, you know? So when you hear about 5G, and I think Imran's example was perfect. That speed 100 times faster in 4 seconds of a download. That's the easiest way to think about it. The spinny wheel of death goes away. That's really the most important thing to think about.
So 5G is a network that enables
it is
that?
The upgrade of the radio and all those wires, that network, to go from 4G or LTE, which, by the way, to put this in context, do you know what LTE stands for? This will tell you how bad mobile operators are at marketing. Long-term evolution. Can you believe that? And it's on every one of our phones. That's what it stands for. So when they have the opportunity to say that they're upgrading the radio and the network to 5G, oh my God, this is now the greatest thing possible. They can now make it so, I have 5G. Do you have 5G?
And you being somebody who sells, sells services on, it's a very complicated subject.
And I can get rolling too, so I have to,
So if you're in the business of selling services on 5G network, you think 5G is transformative in terms,
I do.
Okay, just in one sentence, why? Is it going to look like that?
Yeah, that's what it's going to look like. So did you all see that video of the virtual operator, the virtual surgery? That's where we'll go. Now, I know William and I are going to have a different point of view, but that's where we're going to go.
So you think that's where we're going to go with 5G? Yes. Okay, William, right? I want to know from you, what do you think? Is that where what 5G is? If we're being marketed by all the telecoms, right, and they're saying 5G, 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 is that what we're going to have?
When I saw that a few days ago, I looked back at the videos that were being produced when 4G was in its infancy in 2010, and they were all like that. They weren't surgery, but they were all kind of Minority Report on steroid stuff, and that was all going to happen by today. So, do you believe that? Do you want to be operated on like that? Frankly, I think I'd rather have the surgeon in the theatre. And even if you did, how many remote surgeons are there going to be in the world? Not many. So if we look at what happened when we went from 2G, 3G, 4G, it was all an evolution. basically every generation got 10 times faster. 10 years, 10 times faster, kind of nice, progressive thread. And to some degree, that's where 5G is sort of pitched. 10 years on, 10 times faster. But then along came all the hype, and suddenly it's a revolution. It's not an evolution, as we heard before. It's going to change the world.
You're saying that people are saying that it's a revolution.
Yeah. And we hear people say it's going to be more transformative than electricity. We hear our world leaders saying that if our country is not in the forefront of 5G, then some catastrophe, as yet unspecified, is going to befall us. I mean, all this stuff is frankly absolutely nuts. It's 10 times faster than 4G. Now, the problem is, actually, 4G was a useful step up, but in fact, it's all we need. So it's a bit like Ford coming along and saying, your next car is 5 times faster than your current car. And you'll say, well, yeah, that's OK, but my current car already goes faster than the speed limit. What's the point in going 5 times faster? If you'd actually concentrated on the in-car entertainment system, that would be much more useful for me. And to Mary's point, 5G should really be concentrating on getting good coverage everywhere, good 4G everywhere, not faster in a few isolated areas. Now, who's got good 4G here? Nobody. That would have been a much more sensible objective than going for downloading a movie in 4 seconds. I mean, who downloads a movie to their phone? And if they do, who cares whether it takes 4 seconds or 2 minutes?
Wait, you have something to say?
Well, yeah, because if you think about it, in a 5G world, one of the things that we're really contemplating, right, is you hear about edge cloud computing, the ability to store more into the cloud. So to get to the device that Andrew mentioned that was $1, I actually have 256 gigs on this phone, and I have probably 30 movies downloaded because I don't trust Wi-Fi anywhere. And I'm on a plane at least 60% of the time, so I never want to be without connectivity. So 5G or not, I'm always going to have something on my phone. But in the future, when you think about it, that $1,000 phone, that he pulled out of his pocket that, we'll all eventually buy, and we want to be able to have that storage in the cloud. And that'll be enabled very much by 5G. And that doesn't exist today. I think that's a key existence. So
but why is that so transformative?
Because this now can become, $200, $16. So think about the different economies.
Yeah, but about the culture, the world, how is it going to
Because as soon as you can
how
have
is it
this
gonna
device,
impact our lives?
Yeah, so if you have a device that is much less expensive, that has the same kind of functionality in it, that has the compute power, and still have the storage access to it, and you don't feel that you're necessarily going to be without that access, and you start behaving that way, and the networks actually upgrade to that, which they will, then I think you really do have a transformed existence.
But I don't think the device cost is a big issue. So everybody in the world pretty much has got a mobile phone, more or less. There's 5 billion mobile phones and 7 billion people. We're pretty much there at current price levels. It's not, making it cheaper isn't going to transform that.
I disagree. The only reason I say that is because in the United States today, there are 270 million smartphones.
Yeah.
Right? And there are, 360 million people. So a smartphone, right? I'm totally with you on devices right across the board. But as soon as we start talking about this device and the device that we live with, and if this can become less expensive and it can become more pervasive, and you're not looking at your 12-year-old saying, okay, are you really deserving of a device right now? Can I afford to spend, $800 on this for you? If I can give you something that's $60 that's going to give you the kind of content and connectivity, and I know where you are, I do think it changes. I think this device becomes so much of an irrelevant component to it because everything you want is stored somewhere else, and you can always get it.
You agree?
Well, so first of all, if you want a cheap device, buy a 4G device, frankly. 5G is always going to be more expensive than 4G. But actually, we already use cloud storage, and we don't have a big problem with getting the data.
It's the access. It's the connectivity.
Yeah.
It's the connectivity.
Yeah, and for the most part. So I'm guessing a lot of you here have managed to get onto the Wi-Fi system, and you want to get stuff from the cloud, you get it from the cloud. I mean, it's not something that is so problematic it's preventing us doing what we want to do. And frankly, if we wanted to do that remote surgery, we could just log onto a decent Wi-Fi system, and that would have enough bandwidth to do it.
Good point. So all that stuff, you're saying you don't need 5G technology. What do you need then?
Yeah, I mean, a decent Wi-Fi system. So I'm not sure this one I count as decent, but the conference I was in earlier this week, even though there was 800 people there, the data rates were many hundreds of megabits a second, and the ping rates were down to 3 milliseconds for the aficionado. So that basically means there's just no delay whatsoever. So you could easily do that stuff today if you wanted to.
Really?
You could.
And not using 5G?
Not using 5G.
So then why is everybody saying 5G, 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 5G?
It's one of those. So every new technology is hyped. We're kind of used to that. It's standard stuff. But I think what's happened with 5G is that hype got picked up by the politicians, by our great leaders who go around saying 5G amazing, even if they don't know what it is, because we kind of like 4G, so everyone assumes 5G is going to be even better, right? So let's have it. And once the emperors start saying it's good, nobody wants to say they've got no clothes. And that's the problem. You get into this kind of spin cycle where nobody is saying this is bad because they daren't say it.
So is that why you wrote your book?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what are all the give us a couple. Yeah. I mean, like, what in your heart and soul, why did you feel like you had to write this book called The 5G Myth?
It may sound bizarre, but I felt I'd go insane if I didn't. Because
you go insane if you...
Yeah, because I was sitting at so many events and hearing so much rubbish on what 5G would do and how this is better than electricity. And I'm not saying we shouldn't have 5G. It's the next evolution. It does help provide more capacity into the network. It makes sense for mobile operators to deploy it in certain places. So I'm not saying we shouldn't have done it, but it's just an evolution. It's just a bit better than 4G. It's fine, but it doesn't change our world dramatically.
You think it's a revolution?
Well, I think it's interesting. I mean, a little bit of this just kind of gets down to semantics too. I mean, I think when I
Sure.
I mean, I think, and you and I are really immersed in this. I mean, I remember very well in 2008 when LTE was first being talked about. We didn't really have LTE in the United States until Verizon launched it in 2012, but we were still talking about it, and it was on people's phones. You still had a little 4G, and there was the same kind of hype.
So when's 6G happening? Is that going to be the next thing?
I'm sorry?
Is 6G going to
6G, we'll start hearing about that in about 2025. About the same time
you agree? 2025?
I mean, there's already a university in Finland that's got a 6G research institution.
True. Yeah.
So the researchers are already starting to talk about it, and that's kind of...
That's because they have nothing else to do.
Yeah, exactly. they've kind of delivered 5G, they've got to... What next?
Okay, so is this clear? Are you getting all this? Yeah? All right, cool. So let's get to some more practical questions.
Okay.
Does 5G cause cancer? Because in the last week, I've been reading everywhere that
Really?
got it. Yeah.
Do you want to hit this one first? I'm happy to, because I have some personal story on this stuff.
Sure. So, I mean, it's a difficult place to go, first of all, because you can never prove absolutely convincingly that it doesn't have a health effect, because it's like trying to prove something that's just, there's too many possible permutations. But the way I look at it is, it's not really materially different from 4G in terms of the amount of energy that's created. So if you're going to be worrying about 5G, you should be worrying about 4G. And frankly, if you're worrying about 4G, you should be worrying about Wi-Fi and cordless phones and this other stuff.
Right, I've been hearing that cell phones are going to cause brain cancer.
Yeah,
since
and we've had all this stuff for 30 years or more now. And there's no obvious evidence of higher incidence of brain tumors or any of the other kind of effects that you might expect in the population. So I think it's really, really, really unlikely. I think there's a lot more other stuff to worry about than that, frankly.
Okay. You also mentioned, going back to what you were saying before, about that a lot of the hype about 5G is governmentally related or related to the government.
Yeah.
So, Mary, let me ask you a political question.
Sure.
Why, in our country, the United States of America, we have a president who's so scared or against Huawei, which is the Chinese 5G company?
That is mispronounced everywhere as well. It's Hawaii or it's Hawaii. It's very difficult to pronounce.
What's mispronounced? Sorry.
Hawaii. No, it's Huawei. So it's
Huawei.
Huawei.
It's Huawei.
Huawei. Yeah.
You know what I said? Did I say
So
Huawei?
No. It's constantly mispronounced. It's one of the funnier things in the industry. So the fear, right? Just to break it down, is remember how I talked about the how you have the radio goes up to the tower, goes down into the network, right? And that's where everything happens inside of the operator. So the boxes, literally, if you can imagine servers that are put into the network, those are produced by essentially 3 different providers around the world today: Ericsson, Nokia, and Huawei. And so these boxes create the 4G network, the 5G network. That's what they do. So when you are when you're sending messaging across a voice call, a text message, an internet session, when you're sending it across the network, whether through the radio connection and down into the network, you're using whatever boxes that operator has said they're going to use. And so Huawei has been a seller of this for years, and they are considered really good, pretty good, high quality, and they're less expensive generally than certainly Ericsson and Nokia. And the fear that has been raised in the United States is that the Chinese would have embedded software into the Huawei equipment because it's made in China. And that listening software would have the ability to essentially tap into everything that we talk about amongst ourselves, that the government talks about, and I'm sure some of that they don't want the Chinese to hear, and hence the fear associated with this. That's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Right.
You know?
They have all our data and all.
Yeah.
William, what do you think about that?
So Mary's absolutely right. My take is that is crazy. I mean, if you're worried about your call, you encrypt it, for heaven's sake. And if any of the security services in the US are not encrypting their calls end to end, then heaven help them, frankly, because it's dead easy to do. There was a lovely video on this that The Economist produced last week, and they had a lovely little phrase which was actually, this is less about American security than American insecurity. They're insecure at the idea that other countries might provide major parts of telecoms infrastructure equipment because it doesn't feel right that they're not doing it themselves, and hence this overall kind of.
Well, should Americans be worried that they don't have as good of a technology as Huawei or the Chinese?
I mean, we live in a globally connected world. You know, the iPhone, as everyone knows, kind of the parts come from all over the world.
Right.
Do we worry about that? Not as long as the world trades with each other and things move smoothly. I mean, in a world where trade barriers start getting erected, then potentially you've got future supply chain issues. But that's to some degree in America's own gift as to how that unfolds.
Okay, last question. Let's see. Or there might be another one. Let's see. So everybody in this room, right? They've probably been in rooms where people marketed to you saying, we have the best technology, we have 5G, right? How many people have heard that in a meeting? Anything about 5G? Anybody here? I guess not. Okay. All right. So, All right. So probably they shouldn't care, right? Nobody should, pitch them 5G.
Has anyone got a 5G phone? No, I haven't got one either.
You don't have a 5G phone?
No, they're not really.
I have AT&T. It says 5G on it.
Yes, it does.
And
Sprint is suing them for that.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
All right. So for the people in this audience who are in the fashion business, should they care?
So I think they should care about technology and connectivity. Now, I'm not creative. I'm not even fashionable. But
I think you look great.
You're so kind. But you can imagine, I could imagine all sorts of things, connected handbags that tell you where it is, charge your phone up, all sorts of other stuff like that. Sensors in sports clothing that's got a heart rate monitor built in. There's loads of stuff like that. And maybe there's a future for that kind of thing. But actually, you can do all that right now. So you don't need 5G for that. All of that stuff can be done with Bluetooth, with Wi-Fi, with existing cellular systems, with other kind of Internet of Things technologies. So I think it's worth understanding what you want to do and how you can connect doing it. I think that's important. And maybe there's a role, maybe there isn't, but it's worth looking at that.
So think of the reason why you would want to connect something, like whether it's like a shirt connected to, I don't know, your light bulb, right? But you don't have to care about what type of technology.
So start with the problem, look for the solution, not the other way around, which is kind of what 5G is.
Okay, and Mary.
So my point of view.
Yeah.
So I think I might use the example that I gave you earlier today. Okay. So you're in a dressing room, you're trying on something, and you want to show your mom. And so you're video calling her, and you're talking to her. So that you can certainly do in 4G today. Now, I'm in this dressing room. In 5G, being able to do a voice and a video call is going to be really nice, and I don't have to have logged onto the Wi-Fi inside of the store. You'll actually have better in-store coverage, which is a really huge issue today. And building coverage in LTE still is a huge problem. In 5G, the sensors get a little smaller. You have the ability to have more dense network coverage inside of a building. So I think, as you're trying to engage with a consumer, you have an opportunity to then suddenly, through 5G and through the mobile operator, send messages to that consumer all in the same interaction that you have with the mom. And say, hey, look at this. My God, it looks like there's 20% off on this particular dress. And then you say, well, wait a minute. I'd love to see what this looks like in blue. They have it in blue. I'm looking at it in gray. On this device, through the opportunity of utilizing augmented reality, which is so not going to happen in LTE, you have the ability to then put yourself in that. all I'm getting at is in these kinds of scenarios, that kind of visualization, the ability to utilize augmented reality and virtual reality and the connection that'll happen more between voice calling and video calling and messaging in all one session. As we get closer to and have the opportunity as marketers, because I'm very much that at heart, we're constantly solving to answer the question of the market of one. How do I get to a market of one? I want to have a close relationship.
And you're saying that that's 5G. Okay,
I think that's fine.
Okay,
I think that's 5G. It doesn't happen with LTE.
Last question, one word, yes or no.
Okay.
Does anybody in this room ever have to say the word 5G in a conversation?
No.
No?
I wouldn't.
No.
All right.
Come to you
There's
with
your
the idea.
answer. 5G. All right.